A ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So when I was a kid, we lived in the suburbs of New York in a house, and the house wasn't particularly old, but I, as a child, used to see and hear things a lot. So one night I was laying in my room. I must have been about 6 years old, and it's dark, it's the middle of the night, and this man walks by my door, my open door. And he comes back and he peeks into my room, like he's standing in the doorway looking. And I thought it was my dad. Like, it was dark, I couldn't really see, I could just see a man. So I thought it was my dad, and I'm like waving to him. And he doesn't wave back, he's just staring at me. And I still think it's my dad, so I'm waving. And the man just walks away. Now, fast forward to 2 months ago. 2 months ago. I'm talking with my dad, and he told me that he would always get kind of like weird vibes at the house. So I told him the story of that man, and he goes white-faced. And I'm like, Dad, what's going on? And he told me that the people who owned the house before, it was an older couple, and the man had just died in the house, and his wife would see him all the time. So I saw the man that lived in the house before. I had no idea, and I waved to him. I wasn't scared or anything, though. I think he was a good spirit. He was just checking in.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I've been actually waiting to film this in the daytime because I cannot tell these stories at night. But this isn't my own personal story. This is my mom's story. It's one of my favorites. And back in 2021, I had a content idea that like never came to fruition, but I still have what she wrote me for this because I just loved it so much. It was going to be my first installment of this series that I was going to do. But that's what I'm going to read for you for this. So this is going to be a trip because I haven't read out loud in a very long time. Okay, so Thanksgiving in 1984, 1985, I was at a gathering with my then boyfriend and his family at his grandmother's house. After lunch, while some of the family watched the TV upstairs, there was another family group talking in the downstairs finished basement around a kitchen table. Parentheses, it was the grandmother's house, but she lived in the finished basement while one of her sons and his family lived upstairs. So it was a sizable house on the corner lot in a small town neighborhood. She likes to give a lot of details. The discussion went to ghost stories and about the house being haunted. Some of the pictures upstairs would fall off the wall or be crooked. One of the small children that lived there would occasionally be seen talking to someone in the closet corner. My boyfriend, who lived with his grandmother in the basement, had sworn to seeing a lady walk by at the end of his bed in a blue gown. There would be footsteps heard on the steps when nobody else was in the house, and somehow the subject of a Ouija board came up. I had one as a kid, never got anything out of it, and considered it a hoax, but didn't put much stock into it. My boyfriend's mom and her friend proceeded to talk about how they'd played with one not long before and it had worked. Insert my eye roll. So they proceeded to bring out a board, and all that were in on the conversation sat at the table. Several put their hands on the plastic arrow piece with the window. Wasn't long until it started moving around, and everyone participating swore they weren't doing it and doing anything to manipulate the movements. I tried and have to say it was moving on its own like a magnet sensation. Bug back and forth across the board, and someone would ask who was there. Soon a name would spell out letter by letter. One name was a cousin that had died in a car wreck, and through the questions asked, the board answers led some to believe that the road had been purposely blocked, causing the wreck. Of course, this upset the family members, one of which was ready to confront who they thought had caused the wreck. Oh my God, I cannot read out loud. This is so strange. One of which was ready to confront who they thought had caused the wreck. They were eventually calmed, but it was a tense moment. Then the plastic piece would go back and forth over and over, indicating a change of spirit. One spirit really couldn't spell correctly, and someone said it must be a child because they had less control. Another name that had came up was the housekeeper. Oh, I'm getting chills just now reading this. One name that came up was a housekeeper that had passed. They asked if she had opened the bedroom door of the grandmother, which apparently would be closed at night and found open the next morning. And the board answered yes, checking on Miss Minnie. Oh my God, I'm getting chills. Also asked if she was one that would knock the pictures off the walls or make them crooked again. And yes, because she'd promised the grandmother she would contact her from the other side. This went on for a couple of hours, long enough that I had noticed the corners of the board were now beginning to bow up. The final straw for the group, and especially me, was when someone asked who the next spirit was, and it spelled Legion twice. Then it spelled out because we are many, and at that point I was done, and so was everyone else. We looked up the story in the Bible where Jesus cast out evil, and it was called Legion, the story with the pigs that run into the river or the lake, whatever. So since that experience, I have never participated, touched, or had anything to do with a Ouija board.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, all of my stories take place in the same house that my family and I used to live in from when I was like 5, 6 to like 14. So when I was younger, I always had imaginary friends. I was like pretty lonely as a child, so I had a ton. But they tended to be animals, and I always talked to my parents about them, so they always knew about them. And the only imaginary friend that I had that wasn't an animal was, I always saw him as like the same age as me, so like a little boy. And he like kind of was like attached to my closet, it seemed like, but like he was always like hanging out with me, and we were friends. And for some reason I feel like I named him Henry. Like it's super random, but I can still remember that to this day, this imaginary friend in particular. My other imaginary friends I don't remember. I just remember what my parents have told me about them. So I still remembered him. So that'll come into play a little bit later. This house has been a little spooky. There have been like a couple of things that had happened like throughout the time that we lived there. My dad is like super into the supernatural, like anything ghost related. So he's always been like super invested in the fact that like there might be something in this house. One time my grandma had a husband who we didn't like very much, and we ended up finding out that he was kind of abusive. And one time we were all having a barbecue outside, and everyone was outside, my whole family, everyone. And my brother and I were the only 2 kids around at the time. So he was walking inside to go get a drink from the laundry room, and there was an extra fridge in there. And the way my house was set up was the stairs went down directly to the laundry room, basically, and there was a hallway off to the side. And we always had a curtain up for the laundry room. There wasn't a door there, so you would just walk straight down the stairs through the curtain, and there you are. He said that he was gonna go get a drink, and he felt someone, and he thought that it was like a child, because he said that the hands felt small, shove him down like the last 3 or 4 stairs into the laundry room. And when he like opened the curtain and turned around, like he was super mad, and he thought it was either me or my brother like playing a prank. But nobody was in the house, and he didn't like hear anyone running away, like nothing. So he comes outside and he's all angry. He's like, well, the kid's been out here the whole time, and was anyone in there messing with me? Because it's not funny. And we were all like, we've literally been out here the whole time. We don't know what you're talking about. And then I guess when my brother and I were both out of the house one time, my parents had invited a medium to come to our house. And she was like a friend of a friend's mom, like kind of associated with us, but we didn't really know her. Like, and the internet wasn't like super big yet. Facebook wasn't a thing. So there wasn't really a way that she could have like looked up our family or our history or anything. But my parents said that she came and she like walked through the house, and that she told them about, they had 3 friends. My dad had like 3 or 4 army buddies get in a car accident while he was in the army, and they all passed away. And she was telling them like vivid details about these guys and like stuff that like she shouldn't have known about them. So like they were like, yeah, she's legit, because there's no way that this lady would have known this stuff about these people, because we don't know her, and you know, the internet wasn't around, like I said. So, but she was also walking around and she's like, I feel like a male presence in the house. And my mom still to this day will say that she thinks it's her dad that had passed away. But she said that there was a male presence. It wasn't like something that was going to hurt us. It wasn't like evil. It was just like there, like hanging out. And she didn't say that it was like a child, but it was one of those like souls that had like no malicious intent, basically, and like was more protective than anything. And my parents didn't end up telling me this till like way later, right? When we had moved out of the house, because they didn't want to scare me. I was like a notoriously terrified child of ghosts or the dark or anything like that. And then when we finally ended up moving out of that house, my stepdad hired like paranormal investigators to come stay the night at the house with him while we were all like already moved into the new house, because he was like, maybe we'll hear something or whatever. They didn't end up hearing anything, and they didn't end up seeing anything. But allegedly these guys had like done a historical dive into the property, and they said that there used to be a farm that was there, and that the farm burned down, and there was like an interracial couple with their son that lived in the farm, and the fire was set by like the townspeople that were bigots, obviously, and that they all died in the house. So I don't know if I believe that as much, just because like I'm very like, where's the proof on that? That side of it, like I'm more willing to believe the medium about what she said. But I don't know, it could have been maybe their son that I was hanging out with or talking to, or it could have been like my grandpa. But anyway, I still just remember him like clear as day. And yeah, those are my ghost stories. Apparently I was widowy talking to ghosts. So
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I only ever had one unexplained occurrence happen to me my whole life. And it happened right after my father's father, my grandfather, passed away. All right, so one night I'm up here in the kitchen making myself a little snacky snack. It's dark. I didn't turn on all the lights. And I keep hearing noises coming from down there. Just noises, and I'm like, hello? Nothing. Oh, hi, Lula. So yeah, I'm like, hello? Is someone messing with me? I come over here and I look down there. Our dog at the time had a big couch right there. And I look down and he's passed out. He's sleeping. So I'm like, all right, he doesn't hear anything. There's probably nothing. Like, I'm gonna trust him on this. So I go back to making my little snacky snack over here. I keep hearing the noises. So I turn around and look. And this is what I saw. So I see this dark shadow, looks like it's peeking at me from around the wall. I'm like, hello? Who the hell's fucking with me in the middle of the night while I'm trying to get some food? All of a sudden, I hear growling. I come over and I look. Our Great Dane that was down here is no longer sleeping. He is standing up, hackles raised, growling at the exact spot where I thought I saw a shadow. I still can't explain it. I'm not saying it's a ghost, but nobody would fuck with me like that. And it never happened before nor since. So I don't know.
So I know y'all seen that trend where everybody's teaching them ghost stories, right?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Okay, here we go. So about 10 years ago, I was living in an apartment, just me and my kids. Typically, when I move into an apartment, you know, I have my blessed oil that I get from the tabernacle because, baby, we're throwing it around, getting the doors in the corners, just for a little extra protection, right? I feel like I missed this one. I must have missed it. So I just remember going to bed one night. I remember being asleep. I remember feeling like my body jerked down as if like I was getting pulled down like by my feet. I felt like I woke up, but I might not have woke up. I may have woken up like in a dream. So I feel like I went to lay back down. I didn't get up out the bed or anything like that. I may have just sat up, but I lay back down and then I saw something in a corner by my door, like a shadow or something. So instinctively, I learned from my grandmother that anytime I felt uncomfortable or I thought something was going on, spiritual wise, so I would repeat, whether out loud or in my mind, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. So I literally was saying that in my mind. I wasn't saying it out loud at all, but I was hearing my voice say it, right? So I just remember something walking out from the corner. He had like a cape on, almost like as if he was like the ringmaster or something of like a circus. He had a top hat, he had a cane, and he just walked out. He was just laughing, just like a weird laugh. So as I was saying, I rebuke in the name of Jesus, he was saying it back to me as if like he was mocking me. And then at that moment, once I saw it, I hopped up out of the bed. And then it was almost like I was saying things in my mind that he would be saying out loud. So I'll be like, okay, Jessica, you know, like, stuff like this isn't real. Like, it's not real. And he's like, oh, you don't think I'm real? You don't think I'm real? Like, you don't think you're really seeing me? And then I felt like I started talking back to like, no, I know you're not real. Like, I know that spirits exist, but there's no way that you're in my house right now. Like, this isn't real. And like, I just remember him like laughing and chuckling, and not like no, like an evil type of laugh, right? And then I remember being like, I'm gonna call my mother because I call my mama for everything. So I was like, I know you're not real, and I'm finna prove it. I'm finna call my mama. So I just remember the bed being here, maybe like me being on one side of the bed and him being on the other side of the bed, and we're just kind of like doing like this as we were kind of having like the conversation. So I just remember jumping in the bed and him like bum rushing the bed at the same time. He didn't get in the bed, but I felt like we were both like doing it at the same time. So I got in the bed and I was like, grab my phone, and then I did, you know, whatever, and I hit mom. And as soon as I went to hit her name or press the green phone, like, I instantly woke up. And I was like in my mind, I was like, that was hella weird. And then I noticed that like I was in my bed, I was laying, you know, on my side, like how I sleep, but I had my phone in my hand and it said mom or mama, because that's what I call her. And I was literally getting ready to call her. So I woke up, I feel like I went to sleep, not necessarily like fully understanding what went on, but I woke up the next morning, I was like, I was literally getting ready to call her. Like, I know I fully woke up and saw my phone. Like, I know that happened. Baby, I said, get the oil ready. I went, got my oil, did my door frames, my bed, all around my bed, hit that forehead before I went to bed last night, said a real good prayer, did my kids' room, because what you won't do is frolic in my kids' bedrooms, you know. And I mean, I never saw him again, but like, I know for a fact I was up out of the bed. I know for a fact that I had my phone in my hand, and unconsciously I was literally getting ready to call my mom and ask her. I was literally getting ready to call her phone. I just can't.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So growing up, I would live in a 100-year-old home. I couldn't sleep alone or in the dark until I was 10 years old. And even then, like, it was hard. And I would never want to go in the basement or the attic. So my room was connected to the living room by a wall, meaning there was nothing in between, and the dining room on the other side of that wall. And usually because my dad's watching movies in the living room, we use the wall as a communication system in case one of us needed something. Because, like, you can't really hear me if I'm trying to shout across the house, but I can hear the wall knock. So I would knock if I needed water or something. I was too lazy to get up. He would knock if he wanted to talk to me and didn't want to, like, just shout my name. This was years. Like, we did this for so long. I'm 15, right? The area where he would knock from usually is the left side of the room because that's where the couch is at. And at this point in my life, I had a loft bed. So I would be sleeping in the upper right portion of the room. One night, I was so thirsty. It was midnight. I knew it was midnight, too, because I checked my phone, like, right before. And I'll never forget this. I knocked on the wall and didn't get any response. I was like, okay, Like the movie he's watching is probably loud or he's wearing headphones. So I knock again, and immediately, not even a second after, 3 loud slams against my head, like by the wall. I was so terrified. I just like immediately like closed my eyes and like went to bed. I was like, I'm no, like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. Next morning, I asked my mom, I was like, yo, what time did dad go to bed? I needed something, and he didn't really respond. And she was like, oh, he wasn't feeling well. He went to bed around 10. So yeah, that's one of the scariest stories I have. I've heard a lot of things, but I can't really see any ghosts. My best friend, though, can, and I have a few stories about that.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
I have been waiting to share my ghost stories. So, if you know me personally, you know that I grew up in a very haunted house, actually on a haunted farm. Just a little backstory. We built our house, we built the farm. There was nothing on the land except a barn from the 40s. My grandfather had acquired the property in the 80s. They built their section of the property, which was a 5,000 square foot house. They already had the barn, they put fencing in. Then we had our side, which was about 4 acres. We built my parents' house, whatever, it's where I grew up. Now, growing up, everybody in my family would talk about these ghost stories on the farm. And at some point, I started having my own experiences. So I think the very first time that I ever experienced anything, I was probably about 5 years old. It was a weird night. My mom had gone out to some kind of PTA meeting, and this was in 2002 or 2003. So cell phones weren't a big thing. There were no smartphones, just landlines. My second oldest brother was babysitting me, and it was just a regular night until my mom was like MIA. She ended up coming home later that night, like really late, and she didn't call because, again, at the time, there were no cell phones. It was just landline and a payphone, and where she was, there was no phone. So as the night was getting later and later and later, me and my brother started kind of freaking out, like, yo, where's mom? And I remember my brother had gone into the bathroom, and I was already a nervous wreck. I had really bad anxiety as a kid. He's in the bathroom doing whatever he's doing, and I'm just kind of waiting outside the door for him to come out. And I hear somebody whispering my name. Not just my legal name, my nickname. Mind you, my brother didn't call me by my nickname. He called me by my first name. And the whispering, it just got louder and louder and louder. And I started crying. And when my brother came outside the bathroom, I said to him, why are you whispering my name? It's freaking me out. And he said to me, he goes, I don't know what you were talking about. And that's when I realized my house was actually haunted. Now, if you made it this far in the story, I'll give you even more background on the house. Where we live in New Jersey, specifically the town we're in, there has been reports of Indian burial grounds. My family used to find artifacts on the property, arrowheads, fossils, all kinds of stuff. The kind of stories that we have from the farm are out of a horror movie. Conjuring type shit. Now, that story I just told you wasn't even that bad. I have many others. Let me know if you want to hear more about our conjuring house in Middlesex County, New Jersey.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
I have one. When I was 16, 17 years old, my bedroom was the attic of my parents' house. One night, I proceed to have one of the most real feeling dreams I've ever had. In the dream, I'm sleeping in my bed. I wake up in the dream to an older woman standing in the corner of my bedroom. I do not know this woman, never seen this woman. She actually looked quite ghost-like, a little translucent. You could see through her a bit. Like, she looked like a ghost. She proceeds to ask me, I have a son. He needs someone to play with. Would you mind playing with him? Not sure why I chose to say yes, but I did. And I was like, yeah, I'll totally play with your son. That seems totally normal. Like, we're in a dream, so, like, fine, I'll play with your son. As soon as I say, yeah, I'll play with your son, he appears, like, if I'm laying in my bed, like, she's on this side, he appears on this side of the room, like, right where the stairs are, the top of the steps. And he starts to walk over to my bed, comes to my bed, and he's like, let's play arm wrestling. So I'm like, yeah, no problem. Let's play arm wrestling. So I put my hand up like this. He puts his hand in my hand, and we are arm wrestling. At first, it's like a good give and go. We're like, oh, yeah. And then, like, he pins my hand completely down. I feel his hand, hold on. I feel his hand around my hand, ice cold. He pins my hand down and is staring at me. And I'm like, okay, like, let's play again. And he goes, I don't think you want to play this game with me. Just like that, like, dead stare. I don't think you want to play this game with me. So I'm like, what does that mean? Let's play, like, okay, let's play the game. So he goes, no problem. Digs his nails into my hand like that and starts pinning my hand to the bed, yelling, I win, 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 I win. I rip my hand away from his. I feel the scratch marks on my, like, right here. And then he takes a step back with this, like, grin on his face. And he becomes this, like, black cloud of smoke. And I know that sounds unreal, but just stay with me. So he's this big cloud of smoke. This is all still in the dream. I get up, I'm screaming, I jump out of my bed. Here's where it gets crazy. I jump out of my bed in the dream and I wake up in real life and I am fully standing on my feet. So as I'm standing on my feet, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I'm down the stairs, out the room, right? And so my mom and my sister are downstairs in the kitchen cooking breakfast. My mom is a very spiritual person, so I have no problem just being like, yo, this is what just happened. And it's like, disregard the dream if you want, but I was fully standing when I woke up. Insane. And so typically, not saying typically like this happens all the time to me, but like my mom we regularly would have priests come over, bless the house, things like that. So like that's not weird. So like my mom throwing holy water around the house is not like an odd thing in my household. So like I'm expecting her to be like, okay, let me go get the holy water. I'll spray your room down. Like, not a big deal. She goes, the holy water is right there. You're going to go get it and go upstairs and throw it around your room with some salt. I'm like, why are you not doing it? She's like, I think you should do it. And I'm like, okay, this is insane. So I take the salt, I take the holy water, I go upstairs. My sister's like, I'll come with you, but I'm staying at the bottom of the stairs. Everybody's acting scared. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is something. So I have the holy water, I have the salt, I go upstairs. I have the holy water in like a little cup, and I have the salt. I go upstairs, and so I'm like throwing the holy water around, just a little flap around. And I have the salt, and I throw it onto my bed, and it sizzles. Bitch. I never ran down a flight of stairs faster in my life. I don't even think I touched one step. I jumped from the top 11 steps down, bow, hit it. I was downstairs the next flight, bow, hit it. I didn't stop for shit. I said the only way I'm going back up there is if y'all bring a priest to hose this house down with a fire truck of holy water. I'm not playing at all with y'all. And so my mama got the priest to come, and he blessed the whole house, top to bottom. He didn't miss no floor, no nook, no cranny. And I never had an experience like that again. So I don't know where that little boy is at, but I hope his soul is at rest, because he...
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
My dad's side of the family has experienced a lot of tragic deaths one of which was my dad's brother Richard, who passed before I was even born. He passed in a car accident in the middle of the night. And sadly, he and my dad were not on speaking terms at the time of his passing. They had just gotten into like a sibling spat. And about a week after his passing, my mom said she remembers laying in bed and getting a phone call. My dad rolled over, picked up, kind of mumbled a few words, and then hung up and laid back down. And my mom was like, "Who was that? Like, who called us in the middle of the night?" And he said, "Oh, it was just Richard. He was calling to tell me that everything's okay." And I can remember hearing the story and just getting immediate goosebumps. It never left my mind. Fast forward 15 years later, I'm living on the other side of the country with my dad's sister for an internship, and my cousin and I are kind of having, a catch up, telling family stories, and I bring up the story to him, and he just goes white in the face, and he says, You're kidding me. There's no way, right? That's not true." And I said, "Oh, absolutely. That's 100% true." So he's like, "Stay here." He runs down, he grabs my aunt, and my aunt's like, "You're not going to believe this, but I have almost the exact same story." A week later, after Richard's passing, she hears commotion in the house, and she thinks someone's breaking in. It's in the middle of the night. So she tells my uncle to get up and kind of go sweep the house and see what's going on. As he's doing that, she said she feels a presence in the room, but she's not scared. It's calm. And she just feels a spirit walk over to her, lean down in bed, and give her a kiss on the cheek. And she said, "I knew it was my brother. I just knew." And she said, "I didn't kind of tell anyone at first because I didn't want to freak the family out. But eventually I told my mom, my Grammy, who had almost to a T the exact same experience. About a week after Richard's passing, she feels a presence in the room. He walks over, he leans over her in bed, he gives her a hug, he gives her a kiss, and she said it was the most warm, calming, sweet presence she's ever felt. And just to know that a week after, Richard visited 3 family members across the country just to let them know that he was okay.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely.
So my family's been going to the exact same cottage every summer since before my mom was born. It's a very old cottage. I actually don't know how old it is. I know it was old when my mom was little, so it's been around for a long time. Because the cottage is so old and we've been going there for so long, throughout the years there's been sort of weird experiences, and so we kind of just joke that the cottage is haunted. Some of my family members have had kind of very scary experiences in that cottage, but for the most part we've all only experienced friendly stuff when stuff happened. But that all changed for me when I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was 10, 12, and I really needed to pee. The thing about this cottage is it's really small. There's like a bedroom, a front room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. And I was asleep in the bedroom, and then people also sleep in the front room because it's a tiny cottage. So anyway, it's 3 a.m. I really need to pee. So I go into the bathroom. The bathroom is really tiny. There isn't a shower. The shower's outside. So it's like teeny tiny, just a toilet and a sink. So I'm sitting on the toilet doing what one does, and I hear something say my name. My first thought is, no, you're just dreaming, it's fine. I continue on, and then I hear it again. And this time, it is absolutely something saying my name, except where the voice came from is just a wall. Like, there's no room for somebody to be. And then outside of the wall are woods. Like, this is just a cottage deep in the woods. Obviously, I'm like a little scared. Also, what was kind of weird about this thing was it pronounced my name correctly, which a lot of American accents cannot pronounce correctly, which I didn't like that. So I'm really scared at this point because like this is absolutely something is saying my name, and it's something is in the bathroom with me. I'm really scared. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go wash my hands. I'm gonna go to bed. We'll just forget about this, you know? So I start washing my hands, and it happens again. Something says my name, and this time it is not coming from the wall. It is coming right behind me. And there's barely any room. Like, you can't fit more than a person and a half in this bathroom, and there is something standing behind me saying my name, 3 o'clock in the morning, as I'm washing my hands. Something in my head, I was like, if you look up right now, because you can feel this person there, or whatever this was there, I'm like, if you look up right now, you are gonna see something standing behind you. Like, I was just certain. I'm full on freaking out now, and I decided that I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll see if somebody is like tricking me, right? So I go into the front room, everybody's asleep. I go into the back room, everybody's asleep. And the way this cottage is laid out, it would have been impossible for anybody to sneak out without running by me to get back into the room. I'm really scared, and then eventually I go back to sleep, And I didn't tell anybody about this. I think it took me like a year to talk about, because I was really scared that this was going to happen again. Like, I was scared of being alone in that cottage after that. A few years later, we're talking, all of my cousins and I are talking about stuff that have happened in that house. And my cousin tells the exact same story. She had the exact same thing happen to her, except it happened to her when she was alone in the cottage, and it was the front room while she was in the kitchen. So yeah, I don't think I was crazy. Like, she never heard the story, my story, but we had the exact same story. And to this day, I don't go to the bathroom in the middle of the night because I'm too scared. Like, what if the scary name ghost comes back?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
So my little sister haunted the Good Samaritan who tried to help her when she passed away for like a year and a half. So now I didn't necessarily believe in ghosts, but I didn't not believe because I didn't know enough. So I just stayed away from all that stuff. My little sister struggled with her mental health and with addiction leading up until her passing away. And in November 2020, she got in a car accident. So we were told, her family were told, she had passed on impact and had pretty much, passed away immediately. And that's all we really knew. We knew that someone had tried to stop and help, but she was already passed, so there was nothing that could be done. Well, about a year and a half passes, and I receive a random message on Facebook. And, it's saying, hi, I'm trying to reach this person's family. Are you related to her? And I said, yeah, that's my little sister, And I said, who are you? And right away, I just had a gut feeling. I was like, this is the guy who stopped, isn't it? So right away, he messages back and goes, yeah, I'm the guy who stopped, and I really need to talk to someone in your family. And I was like, okay, And luckily, he found me because I'm autistic and good at separating feelings and stuff. So I gave him my phone number, and I had him call me. So we sat on the phone for close to an hour. And he starts telling me all the details. Now, apparently my little sister did not pass immediately. She was alive for a few minutes and passed away in, his arms. And he held on to a guilt that he wasn't able to save her, And I tried to tell him, and I hope I got through to him, that my family is forever grateful that someone was there with her, that she didn't pass away alone. So we got through that, but then he starts telling me, he had been in therapy for a year or so immediately after, for PTSD and stuff, and he had been seeing my little sister's ghost. She was just popping up in the corners and the shadows and stuff. She'd never say anything. She would just sit there and stare at him. And so after about a year of therapy, he thought it finally worked. She stopped. She kind of disappeared. And then she came back. So he decided to go to a psychic, and he sits down. Before he even says anything, the psychic immediately sends my little sister and was like, there's a young woman who, passed away a sudden and kind of violent death. Her energy is around you. And he immediately started, telling her kind of the story. And she's like, she hasn't moved on. She's still hanging around because you need to get a message for her to her family. You need to tell her family that she's okay now. She's at peace. She's okay, and they can let go because, she's happy. So as soon as he told me that, he never saw her again. We're still friends. It's been, 3.5 years. We've gotten together. Great guy. But yeah, that solidified my belief in ghosts.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, so I'm not a storyteller, so forgive me, but this happened when I was probably 19. I was still living at home with my dad, and I was dating an ex-boyfriend of mine, and my dad was still pretty stern with me. He's Hispanic, so even though I was of age, I couldn't really do much, or I could, but he wanted me home at a certain time. And this night I had fallen asleep and I woke up at my boyfriend's house and I was like, oh shit, we gotta go. Like, I gotta go. So he drops me off at home. It's late. It's probably like 11 p.m. And I go to the front door and I go to open it and it's locked. And my dad never locks or locked the door. So I look to my ex-boyfriend or my boyfriend. I look to him and I say, you know, I put up my finger, like, give me a minute. And he goes, like, puts his hand up, like, oh, okay. And he's always waited for me to get inside. He never drove off or anything like that. So I go to the back and I see him through the back door, through the window to the front. I see him there, his car's still there. So I'm like, okay, cool. I try the back door, didn't work. And he's still sitting there. And so I go around to my dad's window and I look inside and I call in and I see that he's not there. My dad's gone. So I'm like, what the fuck? What happened? Like, where is he? So I go walk up front back to the front door. My boyfriend's gone. And my phone is on like 2%. It's about to die. And I'm like, okay, well now I'm here by myself. What just happened? Like, he always waits for me to go inside. So I go, and with the little bit of battery I had left, I go and I call him and I'm like, what happened? Like, why'd you leave? What's going on? He said, you got inside. And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't get inside at all. What are you talking about? And he said, no, you went inside. We had a nightlight, a Dodger blue light my dad had in the living room. It was just me and my dad, okay? He's a boy. So that was up in the living room. And he said that I went in, I unplugged it, and he couldn't see, but he saw an outline, and I waved. I waved to him. And I told him, I was like, let's call him Jerry. I was like, Jerry, I didn't get inside. I was never inside. No, like, nobody's here. And he was like, what? Okay, like, so he whips around and comes and picks me up. Anyways, find out my dad's at the bar down the street, just hanging out, having a good time. And I was like, why'd you lock the door? Like, what happened? And he was like, oh, whatever his story was. And go inside, no one's there. The light, the blue light that my ex was talking about, was on when I passed the door to go to my dad's room. And when I walked back to the front, that light never was off. So somebody wanted me home that night, and somebody wanted me there alone.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I don't even know where to begin, as it's a daily thing for me. For those who don't know me, I'm clairvoyant and I've experienced paranormal things from a young age. I have a lot of stories. A couple weeks ago, we visited this house in the middle of nowhere. It was in Garnett, Kansas, called the Garnett House. This house was built in 1858, and it was easily one of the most haunted homes I've ever been to. That says a lot. I've never experienced so much poltergeist activity at once. Prior to visiting the house, I was taking a nap, and I had a very intense, terrifying dream. Since I was little, I've had dreams that predict things before they happen. I've also had dreams where spirits or ghosts come to me. They show me how they died. They'll tell me their name. They'll show me where they're buried. They just, yeah. Sometimes I don't know what to do with the information. It just is what it is. This dream was really different though, because I was a little girl, but I wasn't me. I was literally somebody else, and I think they were trying to show me what happened to them or what's in the house. It was a little confusing because it wasn't the same exact house, but I had walked upstairs, and I was hiding from this lady that I was terrified of. I knew that if she found me, something bad was gonna happen. So I run upstairs and I hide under the bed, and my heart is pounding. And I see the lady's feet walk by, and I am literally like holding my breath so that she cannot find me. She sits down on the bed next to me, and I try to scoot forward because I was trying to creep out and run down the stairs, and the freaking floor creaks. And as the floor creaked, I knew she heard me, and I remember in the dream I closed my eyes and I just felt the bed rise from above me, like she was lifting it up. And it was this lady with brown hair in this really old-fashioned dress that I've never seen before. And while this was happening, I remember thinking, I'm in a dream, this isn't real, she can't hurt me. And she grabbed me so hard, I felt it, grabbed me by the arm, the back of my head, and pulled me up and like carried me out of the room. And I remember turning and looking at her, and her neck was slit, and it looked like her head was bashed in, and she had cuts all over. She looked very just disfigured, and there was something off. Clearly there was something off. And my friends and I knew nothing about the history. Prior to going to this house, we wanted to go and be surprised and just experience, we just knew it was haunted. And probably about 10 minutes after me getting there, we go upstairs and the craziest shit starts happening. There's this old bed heater sitting by the wall, weighs probably 20 pounds, and all of a sudden it falls over, and our friend was standing nowhere near it. That freaked us out a little bit, and then behind my friend you see this doll just fly off the shelf, and it lands, there's a happy and a sad face, and it landed on the happy face side. So I thought, oh, the spirits are probably happy, you know, that we're here. They were happy, but they were happy to like scare the shit out of us. And then shit hits the fan. We're all a little bit shaken up as to, you know, this thing likes to move things. Okay, we're processing that. And then I see the, you know, those lights that click on and off. I see the thing swinging. So we walk over there to go look at it. All of a sudden, my boyfriend freaks out. There's this ball that flies off the shelf, and then he turns and there's this doll that was sitting on a chair that they believe the doll is haunted. It falls off, the rocking chair starts rocking by itself. He screams, he pulls out his back, injures himself really badly. He could not breathe. I've never seen him in so much pain. And we're all freaking out, so we're trying to get out of there. I was trying to keep my cool. Everyone was screaming. I was like, okay, we need one person to like be chill. So I was trying to keep my cool and set boundaries with the spirits because they were getting at it. It then decides to knock something else off the shelf, and then we were like, okay, we need to get down outside and just breathe. And as we're all sitting outside, there's this entity that's a shadow with a big smile on its face. It walks out of the house, has its smile, and walks back in. It was very pleased with itself. There's a lot more that happened, but after visiting this house, we decided to look more into the history. And this goes back into my dream. Are you ready for this? It turns out that there were multiple serial killers who lived at the home. One of them was an axe murderer and murdered a woman, slit her throat, bashed her head in. Exactly how I described the lady in my dream. There's also a little girl seen throughout the house, so did she have anything to do with that lady who was murdered, or was she just scared showing me what's in the house? I don't know. But to make this even crazier, I caught this all on video. Yeah. And I'll be posting the full video this Sunday on my channel. I hope you're ready.